All right, thank you, sweetie. I appreciate that. All right. Yeah, I was supposed to do a special order for this young lady, and it's actually a piece that, well, it's a set of pieces that we've been working on based on earth, wind, and fire. And so, yeah, we were supposed to do wind today, but I don't feel all windy yet. You know, it's a good windy day to do it on, though, isn't it? How's everyone doing? Yeah, enjoying your day? Well, good. Just be that way then. Go ahead, have fun. See if I care. It's not going to bother me one bit. All right, so welcome to Albright. This is our beautiful little village of Albright. What do you think?
Nice.
Yeah, we built this place so you could have fun. Is it working? All right, good, good. That is kind of the whole point, is to have fun. Actually, I've always kind of figured if people can't have fun here, there's something wrong with them, okay? Because it's a fun place. Yeah, and if you can't have fun here, you should just go home. And I haven't seen too many people just walk out, or get up and go home. It just doesn't happen like that. And of course, also, I'd like to welcome you to my studio. This is my glass blowing studio. Everything that you see on the tables over here, all this work, it's all work that's created using this equipment. And this equipment and I actually have kind of a fun life, because we travel around just going from village to village making things out of glass. And hopefully we'll make them well enough that people will buy a couple of things so I can afford to go to the next village, okay? Okay. See, I've had people buy things from me just so I will go to the next village. So, you know, we can do this however you want to do it. It's up to you. Okay, so let's talk about this material, because I love working with this stuff. You know, it's been around for so long. Actually, the first people ever to create glass were an interesting culture. They were called the Mesopotamians. And they first created glass right around 3,000 years BC. So glass has been around for many, many years. And it's actually become a very common material. We use it in so many different things. But I'm always so surprised at how little people really know about glass. Like, do you guys even know where it comes from or what it's made out of? Yes, sir. Trees? Yeah, is glass made out of trees? I don't think so. Yeah, go ahead. You don't have to raise your hand.
Metal.
What?
Metal.
Metal? Nah, not made out of metal. Rocks, yeah, but it's a specific type of rock. It's the sand? Okay, well, what's sand made out of? What's the main ingredient in sand? Silica, there we go. Yeah, somebody said it finally. You guys have heard of silica, right? Not silicone. We don't talk about silicone anymore. That's the, I don't know. Silica. Silica is actually the main ingredient on planet Earth. Our Earth is what's considered a silicon-based planet. We have more silica here than anything else. It's the main ingredient in nearly all sand, and it's also the main ingredient in glass, which is why people say that glass is made of sand. But something you may not realize, though, is that if you were to take sand by itself and put it in that furnace and get it really hot, it won't turn into glass. Actually, if you take sand by itself and you put it in that furnace and get it really hot, it's going to turn into really hot sand, okay? Because you see, another name for that silica is quartz. Have you ever tried to melt quartz? Yeah, it's not easy to do. Actually, to melt quartz, you have to get it well over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is considered a prohibitive temperature, because you see at around 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, these furnaces would literally just melt. The materials that they're made out of won't take temperatures that high, okay? They'll literally melt. And so even if I could melt the silica by itself inside that furnace, I still wouldn't have glass. I'd have what's called fused quartz, okay? And they have different physical properties to them. Technically, fused quartz and glass are not the same thing. See, to take that quartz and turn it into glass, you have to flux it. You have to add other things to it that will attack the silica. Kind of scrub it really good, get it to bond together at lower temperatures, and then it does this really cool thing called vitrify. Once you cause that silica to vitrify, that's when technically it becomes what we call glass, okay? And glass and silica are very different from each other. They have completely different physical properties to them, okay? And I know that's kind of hard on some of you, because now you're going to have to face the fact that when lightning strikes the beach, it does not create beautiful crystal sculptures, okay? Okay? I need to lay that one to rest once and for all. I need you to repeat after me. It was just a movie, okay? It was just a movie, all right? Yeah, actually, when lightning strikes the beach, it doesn't create glass. It creates what are called fulgurites. Fulgurites don't even look like glass. They look like someone dumped glue in the sand is what they look like. So what we do is we just take all those ingredients, the silica, soda, ash, and lime, and there's actually about 10 other ingredients too, but that's the three primary ones that you have to have. You mix them together, they create a fine white powder. And then I just come to my furnace here and I get this thing pretty hot. I get the furnace up to about 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit. Down in the bottom of that furnace, there's a big kettle in there called the crucible. Take a shovel and I just fill the crucible all the way up with that white powder. Close the door, go away. Then I come back about 12 hours later. And all that's left from that white powder after it sits in there and cooks all night long is what's in there right now. It's just a beautiful, pristine pool of glass. Almost 200 pounds of molten glass just sitting in the bottom of that furnace. So basically, whenever you want to work, all you got to do is take a little bit of the glass out, begin to shape it into whatever it is that you want to show. But that glass cools immediately when you start taking it out of the furnace. So you only have so much what's called working time, so much time before it becomes so hard that you no longer can manipulate the material. So it has to be reheated. And that's what the other guy is for, okay? That's actually what's called the glory hole. The glory hole is used for reheating the glass in the process of making something. And yeah, I don't want to hear about it, okay? Because it's been called the glory hole literally for centuries, all right? Okay? Okay. I know all the innuendos, take the stiff hot pipe, shove it in the glory hole, and I don't want to hear about it. Okay, so the glory hole is only on when I'm working because it's used just for reheating the work in the process of making something. Now the glory hole is also used for preheating the tools. I get them nice and hot on the end. That's so the glass will stick to them because, well, glass won't stick to metal unless it is hot. So what I'm going to do is start with the one that actually has a hole in the end of it there. It's a hollow tube. I'm going to use it like it was a honey dipper. Get a small amount of the clear glass that's in the furnace on the end of it. And then I'm going to come here to my table and I'm going to add some color. I've actually got piles of broken colored glass on this table. I'm going to start adding a little bit of color to it simply by rolling the crystal into the colored glass. A few of the pieces stick to it, and then I head back into the glory hole and reheat. Melt that colored glass onto the surface. Then I come back here to the table and I add more color. Then I go back to the glory hole, and then back to the table, and then back to the glory hole, back to the table. Well, anyway, the whole time I'm doing that, of course, you guys are going to be doing your job, right?
What's our job?
Your job is, well, I don't know if you realize it or not, but this is a question and answer demonstration. Very good. So while I'm working, you guys, of course, will be asking questions. Yeah, and as you continue to ask questions, I will continue to work. And then as soon as you stop asking questions, I'm just going to quit working, okay? Why would I continue to work if you're not even interested enough to ask a couple questions? So if you want to see this piece come to fruition, you have to
ask questions.
That's right. You got to do your job. Wow, we're ready to start already. Go ahead. It's an element. Yeah, it's an element. Yep. Silica is actually Si, silica. Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of them out there. How many are up there, you know? How many? Yeah, I think it's like 213 or something, isn't it? Yeah, something? Or is it higher than that?
It's 5.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, yeah. Yeah, I watched some kid on Jimmy Fallon the other night name every single one of them, didn't he? Yeah, crazy kid.
What are you going to make for us?
Well, actually, you know, I'm going to do something fairly simple, but something that I sell quite a lot of here in Louisiana. I'm going to do a rocks glass. I don't usually do rocks glasses because I like to show people how handles go on stuff and everything, but yeah, I'm going to do a rocks glass because it's a special, well, kind of thing for people in Louisiana who drink a lot of liquor. This is like whiskey and Scotch country, especially Scotch country down here. Okay, more questions.
What are you doing now?
Actually, I'm just kind of cleaning the pipe off a little bit. There's a little bit of a boogers left over. I need that hole to be concentric, and so if there's a little booger on one side, then the air is off center. And if the air is off center, it'll actually cause the vessel to blow out off center. And you want to keep it centered. You want to make sure that the sides are even all the way around. So I was picking its nose. It hates that part, picking its nose in public. Now this is glass, guys. This is glass at over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's actually quite beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's actually quite beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, that's a little better. Okay. Yeah. It's a question and answer demonstration. The thing, though, is that I need you to form your question in your mind before you ask it. And then that makes it a lot easier for both of us. Okay?
That's why you do it? Wait, what are you doing?
I'm actually rolling it into colored glass that's here on the table. This is all just piles of broken colored glass that you see here on the table. This is called frit.
Hot enough for you to do that?
I'm sorry?
How long will it stay hot enough for you to do that?
Well, it kind of depends on how much mass there is and also how hot it was when I took it out of the furnace. But I guess sometimes people just want a number. So 16 seconds? Yeah? That work for everybody? 16 seconds? Yeah?
How do you do that?
I think I do this very well. How do you think I do that?
Good.
Yeah. Question and answer demonstration. Yeah, go ahead.
You roll it in a metal powder, and what would that do to the glass? Metal powder.
Is it metal powder?
No, you did that. And you roll it in a metal powder,
Yeah.
and what would that do to the glass?
Well, first of all, metal powders, I'm not sure if you're talking about a metal oxide or if you're talking about metals that are ground up fine. There's kind of a difference.
That glass.
Once a metal combines with oxygen, that's when it becomes what we call an oxide, okay? And then of course, once it combines with oxygen, now it makes it easier for it to combine with other things because that oxygen makes it a lot easier for it to combine with other things. So the colored glass itself actually is made of metal oxides. To make colored glass, that's what you do is you add metal oxides to your batch. And then when you melt it down, that's what creates different colors. You guys all know what metal oxides are, right?
No.
What happens to metals when you leave them outside?
Melt.
Yeah, they rust or they oxidize. The most common rust that we have is right there on that metal. As a matter of fact, you know, if I scrape that brownish orangish powder off of there, I'll have a powder called iron oxide. And then if I take that iron oxide and I put it in the glass and melt it down together, the iron oxide will actually cause that glass to turn green. That's how you make green glass, you add iron oxide. And if you want a darker, richer green, you use a different metal called chrome. Chromium oxide turns it a very dark, rich green. If you want purple glass, you can use manganese oxide. And so what happens is when it combines with the glass, it actually becomes homogeneous with the glass. It becomes part of it. Whereas if you take just metals themselves ground up into like a powder, then now you're dealing with the property of the metal still, and the metal doesn't become homogeneous with the glass because it combines with it on the surface, it bonds to it, but it doesn't become homogeneous. And so the metals added to the glass will cause it to crack when it cools. Because you've got one material, the metal, which expands and contracts at a certain rate. The glass is surrounding it, which expands and contracts at a different rate. So as they begin to cool, one begins to contract faster than the other, actually causes the glass to stress and crack. Whereas if you use the metal oxide, it combines and becomes homogeneous with the glass and creates a new material that has an expansion and contraction that's homogeneous. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. What's that? I heard one back here somewhere. Yeah, go ahead. What does homogeneous mean? Let's see. If you take sugar and water and you put lots of sugar in the water, if the water's really cold, it just kind of floats to the bottom and sits down there, right? But if you stir it and stir it and stir it, eventually it all becomes sugar water. And so it's become what we call homogeneous. It's all become the same thing. Instead of water and sugar, now it becomes sugar water. Yeah. So to homogenize something means to make it a part of or something new that's a combination of the two. I think. I don't know. I think it's just a cool word, homogenize. Yeah, go ahead. How do I get it off the end of the pipe without breaking it? I don't. I actually have to break it off of the pipe. Yeah, you have to break the glass off the end of the pipe. Because if I try to just pull it off there right now, all it's going to do is just stretch and stretch and stretch. There's actually enough glass on this pipe right now that I could stretch that out for well over a mile.
What do you do if you don't want it to be smooth, if you want it to be kind of rough?
Over and over
You can add texture to it just simply by rolling it on a surface that has texture. And then, of course, don't reheat it after you do that, because if you reheat it, it'll just go back to smooth again. That's called fire polish. All right, now I'm going to add a puff of air. Then I just simply stick my thumb on the end and I wait. I wait until the air that's inside that pipe heats up. Now, what does air do when it heats up? It rises, but it also expands. Yeah, and as that air expands, it pushes itself against that molten glass and actually creates a bubble inside of there. Then that little bubble just grows till it gets to the size that I need it to be. Then I just simply take my thumb off the end. That releases the air pressure. The bubble stops growing, and that's how you blow glass right there, guys. What do you think? Am I good or what?
Pretty good.
Come on now. What do you think? Am I good or what? That's a little bit better. Okay.
How much is it costing the gas to keep it warm for 12 hours like that?
To run the furnaces?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't. I use dragons. It's a lot easier. Yeah. My dragons are special though. They're actually albinos. Special albino dragons. Big fat white dragons. And they're into tattooing. So they both have tattoos. They have big tattoos down their bellies that say propane. I don't know where they got that word from. It's kind of a weird word. Propane. You ever see a dragon say propane? It's kind of weird. A little lispy mouth thing going on. Propane.
Why'd you do that?
Actually, I'm just reshaping it. I originally I loved doing pottery. I can work very well on a potter's wheel, and I loved working on the wheel. So it's really tempting just to touch the glass and shape it the way you want to shape it, but it's a really bad idea. Okay. And so what I do is I have that special tool there, and it's only about a 1/2 inch thick or 1/4 inch thick in most places. And so it's the closest thing that I can do to actually being able to touch the glass with my hand, because you don't really want to do that. It's such a bad idea.
Do you ever accidentally burn yourself?
As opposed to burning myself on purpose. I mean, where were we going to go there next? Was that the next question? Well, how many times do you do it on purpose?
It changes colors.
No, it's actually not changing color. It's basically that when it gets larger like this, I'm blowing it out, it gets thinner. And of course, when it gets thinner, what's happening is it'll cool much faster. And of course, once it cools, that's when you can see the color. You can't really see the color when it's hot, simply because, well, when it's hot, it's emitting its own light. Things are really hot, they create their own light, okay? And of course, you can't see the light reflecting off of something to see the color of it when it's emitting its own light. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good. All right.
Why does the rod get so hot you can't touch it?
What's that?
Why does the rod not get so hot?
Oh, why doesn't the pipe or the rods get hot? Yeah, you know what? You were like me. You grew up probably watching cartoons, didn't you? Yeah, see, metals do conduct heat, but they also dissipate heat. Most metals actually will only conduct heat anywhere from 12 to 16 inches away from the source of the heat before it dissipates away. See, I could leave those rods inside that glory hole for a week, and they would never get hot on the other end, because they're actually dissipating the heat. And so as long as I don't touch this thing within 16 inches of where it was introduced into the flame, it doesn't get hot. Okay, rocks glass. We want to have a nice bottom on there. And I've kept the bottom actually pretty thick. I want to have what's called a marie down there. Nice thick amount of glass. Because once you get that glass cold, it stays cold for a very long time.
What kind of stuff are you holding?
And you never get hot.
What is that tool that I used to shape the glass with? What's that made out of? Is that?
Balls.
Yeah, that's amazing high-tech stuff.
It smells like
It's
roasted
the-
marshmallows.
Yeah, well, it's like less than a 1/2 inch thick. And that glass is 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, but I never feel a bit of heat on my hand. It's incredible stuff. It doesn't burn. And of course, also, it doesn't mark the glass. When I take this glass out of the furnace, it's very, very soft. If I just touch it with a tool, it would have put a mark in it immediately. But that tool never marks the glass. It's incredible stuff. It's called paper. Yeah, it's called paper.
And that is made out of.
Why doesn't the paper burn?
Wet.
Because it's wet. Okay, now somebody put an elephant in the room. Why don't things burn just because they're wet? Why don't things burn when they're not because of oxygen? Remember, I mean, water, H2O, there's lots of oxygen.
Self-cooling. The evaporation.
Yeah, now we're kind of getting there, yeah.
Just HE.
When the water touches that hot glass, that water that's in the paper instantly turns into steam. Yeah, steam. So a layer of steam literally gets created in between the paper and the glass. The paper doesn't touch the glass, it touches the steam, okay? And of course, the steam has a maximum temperature. Does anybody know what the maximum temperature of steam is? And I can give you a hint. It's the temperature at which it turns into steam. Yes. The highest temperature that steam can achieve is 212 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? So steam doesn't absorb energy. It only gets up to 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, how hot would that paper have to get in order to burn? And I know you guys know this because you read the book, right? It's called Fahrenheit. Yeah, exactly, yeah. See, the paper would have to get up to at least 450 degrees Fahrenheit to burn, but it can't burn because it only gets up to 212 degrees, which is the highest temperature the steam can achieve. So, yeah.
As long as your paper is wet.
As long as the paper is wet, yeah. Or as long as you don't take that steam and separate it away from its source and then reheat it. That's called superheating steam. Remove it from its source and reheat it, you can get it up to 978 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, now, that's my basic shape. I kind of pressed up on the bottom a little bit there to make it concave. And that little divot up inside of there is actually called the punt, P-U-N-T. So what I did there, that's called punting or kicking the glass. And now that I've got that punt in there, I can get it off the pipe. But to take it off the pipe, I need it attached to something. So, hot glass on the end of this rod. This hot glass will act like glue. Now I can literally glue the rod right to the bottom of the vessel. And I'll place the rod up inside the punt. They're both very hot, so as soon as I touch that on there, it just sticks right to it. And of course, now I can break it off the pipe, but the glass won't break unless it's cold. So the first thing I want to do is scratch the glass. That increases the surface area. And then once you increase the surface area, there's a little bit of water on my file. It gets into those little scratches. It cools that glass off really quick, and it creates lots of stress in the glass. And once I have enough stress in the glass, all I had to do was just kind of give that pipe a little tap. And of course, that created a vibration. And then the vibration traveled down the pipe. It ran into the stress, causes the stress to release. And when the stress releases, that's what causes the molecules of the glass to separate away from each other. That's what causes the glass to break. See, the only way that you can release that stress is by adding more energy, because the only way you can release energy is to add energy. You have to add energy to release energy. It's just one of the rules. It works that way. You have to add energy to release energy. All right, now I can begin to heat the top of it up and start to open it a little bit. I'll just place a tool on the inside. And then I want the top to be fairly even, so I'm just going to take and press up against the top a little bit. And we'll reheat it, open it some more. Now I'm getting very close to the end of this piece, you guys, so it's not like the questions would be out of place in my hat. I take my hat off and I give it to you guys. And the reason I do that is because I'm kind of hoping up to this point that you actually enjoyed the demonstration. And you see, if you enjoyed the demonstration, you're more than welcome to show your appreciations for the demonstration by dropping something in the hat. And of course the hat comes around and around, and if you didn't enjoy the demonstration, if you didn't learn anything, you didn't have a good time, well basically what we're going to need you to do is to put all of your money in the hat. Because if you didn't enjoy that demonstration, I think there's something wrong with you. And that you're more than likely dangerous to yourself and others. And perhaps you just shouldn't have money. It's probably a bad idea. So if you did not enjoy that demonstration, put all of your money in the hat. Now, is there anyone that did not enjoy that demonstration?
I loved it.
Yeah, see, that's my money. Okay. Oh boy, I did a good job. So that hat better come back nice and full. All right, let's keep opening that. And then of course a rocks glass, you want it to have an angle to it because you don't want it to slip out of the hand. So, see, the rocks glass actually sweats. You get ice inside of there, it'll begin to sweat. You don't want it to sweat and then let it slip through your fingers. So that's why they always have that angle on them so that they don't jump out of the hand. You know, every glass is designed for things like every type of beer has its own shape of glass. Every type of liquors all have their own shape of glass. And it's not necessarily because of anything more than marketing. All right, now, the colored glass actually is on the surface, so I want to give this a really good flaming with what's called a reduction flame. I want to have a lot more gas in my flame than I do oxygen. And of course, since the flame has less gas, or less oxygen, it wants more oxygen. And so it will literally steal the oxygen from the surface of the glass and bring the metals right to the surface. So that's called a reduction surface. And so in certain light, the metals will actually reflect and look exactly like the metals that were used to create the colors. So you're going to see copper and gold literally on the surface of this glass. Now to take that off the end of the rod, I just add a little bit of stress, just tapped the rod, and then it broke right off the end. Now, when you do that, it leaves a sharp edge. So I always come back with my torch and I reheat that a little bit, make sure there's no sharp edge, because there's actually another name for sharp edges. They're called liabilities. So we remove that liability, and then I'm going to place the piece inside this oven right here. Now this oven, this is actually the cooling oven, but the temperature inside that cooling oven right now is 930 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, why do you suppose it's hot inside the cooling oven?
It's got a cool smoke.
Well, it's because the only way that you can release energy is to add energy. Right, exactly. You see that piece of glass, it's well over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. If I took it off the end of the rod and I set it on this table, within a few minutes that glass would just, yeah, it would shatter. Ooh, look, a hat full of money. See, I'm going to take a look inside of here, guys, and I'm going to decide whether I'm ever going to do another demonstration or not. Okay, fine. All right. Did everybody get a chance to put something in the hat they wanted to? Okay. Now, if I put it on that table, I'm not adding energy to the glass. Okay, so what happens to all the heat energy that's in the glass? Where does it go? Well, some of it is absorbed into the table, some of it dissipates away into the air, but interestingly enough, most of the heat energy that's in that glass stays right in there. And I know that doesn't make sense because the glass is cooling down, right? But what's happening is that the heat energy that's in the glass is changing form. It's changing from heat energy into what we call stress or potential energy. So yeah, the temperature in the glass starts to come down, but the stress levels in the glass begin to rise until there's so much stress inside that glass. Well, that even the slightest vibration added to it would cause that stress to release, which in turn causes the glass to shatter. So I put it inside that box, and it's hot inside of there. So I'm adding energy to the glass so the glass can release its energy. And little by little, as I reduce the temperature inside the box, there's this beautiful dance that takes place between the heat energy that's in the glass and the heat energy that's in the ambient air surrounding it. And that heat energy is just gently passed back and forth between the two. And little by little, as I reduce the temperature inside the box, all the heat energy that's in the glass is allowed to dissipate away as heat, and it never gets an opportunity to turn into stress. Because what causes things to break, you guys? It's not just the glass. It's just not materials. It's us too. It's stress. That's what causes things to break. Okay? Okay? All right. So why did you come? Why did you come to our little village today?
Release stress.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a stress-free zone, guys. It's stress-free. That's all there is to it. If you do have any stress left, we got ale right across the street. All right, wonderful honey ale. And of course, if you don't want to go that direction, well, we got these big yellow boxes. Just deposit your stress in there. All right. It's toxic stuff, but we know what to do with it. Okay. All right, now, my name is Mark. I have been doing this a long time, so if you have more questions, please feel free to ask. This is my booth over here. This is all work that I've created right here using this equipment in this studio. So I suggest, come over, take a look. If you see something over there you like, I suggest that you buy it.